our first lecture for week 6. And if it feels like you've come a long way, you have. So I hope you've been enjoying the process. Here we are on probably one of the more fun notes to end on. For week 6, we're going to take a look at management and human resource issues. So sit back and enjoy the ride, and then be able to repeat it all. What do we know? Management. Why do people care? Why do we even care about management? And we know that how well you manage is going to significantly impact the results. Now, you've heard me say this for 6 weeks. How well you do your accounting, how well you market. Truth of the matter is, each of these elements are going to have an influence on your success. And whereas you don't have to be the best at every single one of them, certainly you need to be at least competent in most of these areas. And you need to know when you need to hire somebody when you don't have the necessary means or competencies. Okay? Something that we see that is that one of the most common reasons that small businesses fail is because of a lack of management expertise or abilities. Now, a lack of funds can actually be more serious, but firms tend to end up failing because of lack of management or poor management. There are a number of different things that fall under the management scheme, if you will, or the management umbrella. And they include things like being able to plan, organize, and staff within your organization. When we look at planning, it includes things like being able to anticipate your needs or the needs of the firm. Maybe anticipate things like sales. So let's take a look at a few examples of planning. Let's say that I am planning a big promotional. So I know that I'm going to put out flyers in the neighborhood, and I'm having a live band, I'm going to have a big tent, and I'm trying to make it a really big event. Well, as I'm developing this plan, I need to make extra sure that I have enough product or service level available to be able to support the crowds that I'm expecting. It doesn't make any sense to plan a big event and then not have enough employees to be able to service the people that are coming, or to run out of product halfway through the event. That's a big planning example. Organizing includes things like grouping people and assigning activities so that everybody can do their assigned task and get it done properly. Sticking with the example of our event, I might need people to be cooking hot dogs or whatever. Maybe I offer free hot dogs, or maybe I'm a restaurant shop and I'm offering some of the product that we serve. I might need people to be just working the crowds and welcoming people that arrive. I might have somebody giving out coupons to get that repeat business. And I might have somebody who's running supplies back and forth from the shop to the tents, the outdoor tents where I'm doing my actual promotion. Everybody needs to understand what their role is in the equation, and they need to be doing it. So I can't have the person who's supposed to be running supplies back and forth stopping and chatting with friends, because that's going to be a disruption in our process, and it's going to be felt by our customers. So learning how to plan the event and then organize it so that it comes off well is significant. And then staffing. Did I select the right people for each of the elements? If I have somebody who's really great with the public, maybe I want them taking the orders and serving people. If I have someone who's really not so good, is rather curt, maybe that's the person I have running back and forth with to bring supplies to our tent, if you will. As much as this example shows how each of these elements are important, when we expand it to the firm and the business on a year-round basis, it becomes so much more important. So again, we want to make sure that we are capable, or hiring people who are capable, of making sure these elements are all getting done. When we start managing, we recognize that we all have different management styles. And they each can have benefits, and some have benefits at some point and detractions at other points. but at least recognizing where we are is a good starting point. The autocratic leadership style, it's when the leader makes the decisions without involving others. And that one should not be used very often. Generally speaking, as a management tool, we like to involve our employees, and part of that is because they tend to bring such good information. You know, if we've got somebody who's typically on the counter helping others, helping the customers, they might come to us and say, wow, this is a complaint that keeps coming up. What should I do about it? Well, the very fact that that individual is willing to share the information with you as an owner or a manager is a positive. That's a benefit, and you want them to continue to do that. So not only do we reward that sort of communication, but we make sure that our employees feel very comfortable in coming to us with that information. So in regards to autocratic, when is an autocratic style beneficial? When you need to make fast decisions that are very important. That in those cases, an autocratic style makes the most sense. Let's say the ship is going down and somebody has to decide which lifeboat to launch. That's you. That's the management. That's an autocratic decision. Make it and be prepared to lead. Okay? Democratic leadership is when the leader involves other people in this decision making, and often that's the most effective. So again, if I've got my staff willing to come to me and make and share research, and remember, information from customers brought to me is a form of research. If I can sit down with my group of employees and talk through issues, I'm usually in a much better position to make good democratic decision making that tends to benefit the organization. And then the last form of leadership is laissez-faire leadership. This is defined as minimizing the leader's involvement in decision making, but the leader is responsible for the final decision. This actually tends to not be the most effective under many organizational structures. Now there might be time, let's say when you've got a lot of people, maybe let's say even working around the globe, where you want them in a position to be able to make their own decisions and work from there. That requires, number one, a higher level of employee, because they need to be somebody who's competent, and almost by definition you lose a certain amount of control. Generally speaking, with small businesses or small franchises, you probably want to be a little bit more involved in the process than a laissez-faire. The different styles tend to impact things like how controlling you are. In an autocratic position, you can see that you would be very controlling because you're making the decisions and you're directing what's happening. Things like setting standards, measuring performance, comparing performance, and taking corrective actions are all significant portions or elements of any of the management styles. Somebody has to establish what that level of performance is. If I have an employee, how long should the phone be able to ring before they pick it up? I might have a policy that the phone, somebody needs to answer the phone within 3 rings. Absolutely. So whether it's your job or not your job, as that phone is ringing its 3rd ring, somebody pick it up, because maybe I'm very responsive to my customers and I don't want them to hang up and call somebody else, right? So that's the way that I might set a standard. And then maybe we know who's responsible, that I typically have somebody who's supposed to answer the phone. Maybe they're an order taker or maybe they're a receptionist. And if they're on the other line, then the role or the job falls to number 2 in command. And let's say that number 2 is always picking up the phone. Well, if number 1 wasn't on another line, I need to do some sort of corrective action because I've got somebody who's not doing their job. Those are management responsibilities, and those kind of management responsibilities have to be done. You can't say, oh, I'm just not comfortable telling somebody they're not doing their job correctly, but I am comfortable to continue to pay them. That doesn't make sense. So you need to be in a position to understand what your role is and what the role of your employees are, and to be able to monitor that behavior and correct it or change it when the time is necessary. And these things all go to how well your firm is going to behave or run, or how well your franchise is. We see that there are several different levels of management: top management, middle management, and lower management. Typically, in a franchise situation, your top management might actually be, you might think of them as your franchisors. And middle management might be you as a franchisee, and your employees, well, they're not going to be management, but they're at the bottom level of that hierarchy. As a general rule, we see directions tending to come down, right? Directions and control goes from the top down. Again, just like we might have different levels of management in our franchise, the franchisor might have different ideas of how much authority they want, how much freedoms you have, and how much you need to be following the franchise guide. So again, those are things we want to be aware of. Of the things that we're bringing to the table as a manager is our technical skills. The manager's ability to understand and use techniques, knowledge, and tools and equipment that are specific to the job all fall under that. So whether we're talking about how well you do accounting or how well you use the software available to run your business, those count within the technical umbrella. Typically, you want to at least have a basic understanding of all technical levels. So you don't want to say, well, that software is for the person taking the orders. I don't know how it runs. That generally doesn't reflect well on a manager, and it could leave you in a very bad position when your order taker doesn't show up for work and you're the one who has to get behind the counter. So again, you want to make sure that you've got the technical skills. Decision-making skills are a significant part for management. If only when we're looking at things like being able to recognize that you have a problem, and then understanding what the process is for solving that problem. How many alternatives are you considering in your resolution? Let's say the problem is the person who is designated as the one to answer the phone isn't answering the phone and isn't on the other line. Well, what are my choices? I could train that individual. I could fire that individual. I could rotate that person into a different job where they might be more effective. Bottom line is that there are a number of alternatives that I should be considering, and I would evaluate that person based on their various skill set. Maybe they're not going to be competent in any of the positions in the firm because they just don't care. They're indifferent. Well, under those circumstances, I would probably want to just fire that person. We don't need someone like that in our company. But maybe they just don't have the skills necessary for the job in which we've placed them. So if training can help, I might choose to train them. And sometimes I might just elect to transfer them into another position that they have the skill set and that they can exercise and be at their very best. Again, when I take the management prerogative or even requirement and analyze and evaluate and make the decisions necessary, I'm doing everybody a favor, right? When you say, well, you might not be doing the favor for the person who was fired, well, certainly we'll be doing a favor for the people who are still within the firm, who were covering for them or had to do the job that they didn't do. We're improving the position of our customers, and who knows, maybe we provided a wake-up call for them for their next job. So, one of the things that we want to understand is how do we organize our firm and to be able to accomplish these various goals. And that's something we're going to take up in the last lecture or section or video 6B. So hold on, and we're going to say the best is still to come. See you soon.